Right, let's talk about a story that has more twists and turns than an inflatable tube man in a hurricane. Imagine a scenario where every decision made sends ripples across the globe, affecting economies, businesses, and everyday people. This is not just a tale of political maneuvering, it's a saga of economic strategies and their far-reaching impacts. It involves a trade war, a record debt sell-off, and enough political drama to make even the most cynical observer raise an eyebrow. Picture this: world leaders at odds, markets in turmoil, and citizens caught in the crossfire. The stakes are high, and the consequences are real. Buckle up, because this is going to be a bumpy ride. We're not just talking about minor hiccups, we're talking about major disruptions that have left a lasting impact on the global economy. From fluctuating stock prices to shifting trade alliances, the road ahead is anything but smooth. It all started with Donald Trump because of course it did. His presidency was marked by bold, often controversial decisions that aimed to shake up the status quo. Whether you loved him or hated him, there's no denying that his actions had significant repercussions. Remember him? Orange complexion, even oranger temperament, penchant for tweeting insults at 3 a.m.? Yeah, that guy. His approach to governance was anything but conventional, and his trade policies were no exception. He believed in a hardline stance, one that he thought would protect American interests. He's back in the news, or at least his policies are, because they've come back to bite the US economy in the arse. Hard. The tariffs he imposed were meant to be a show of strength, but they've led to a series of economic challenges that are still being felt today. See, back when Trump was in office, he decided to slap tariffs on goods from China and other countries. This move was part of his broader strategy to reduce the trade deficit and bring manufacturing jobs back to the US. However, the reality of global trade is far more complex than a simple tit-for-tat approach. He thought he was being all tough and putting America first, but in reality, all he did was start a trade war. This conflict didn't just affect the countries directly involved, it sent shockwaves through the global economy. Businesses faced higher costs, consumers paid more for goods, and international relations became strained. And like most wars, this one has had unintended consequences. The tariffs led to retaliatory measures, creating a cycle of economic retaliation that has been difficult to break. Industries that relied on international supply chains found themselves in a precarious position, and the uncertainty has made it challenging for businesses to plan for the future. The ripple effects of this trade war are still being felt, and it's a stark reminder of how interconnected our world truly is. Now, you might be thinking, hang on John, didn't Biden become president ages ago? Well, yes he did. But the complexities of international trade and the policies set by the previous administration are not something that can be undone overnight. Why are we still dealing with Trump's mess? The answer lies in the intricate web of tariffs and trade barriers that were put in place. These policies have far-reaching consequences that ripple through the economy, affecting everything from manufacturing to consumer prices. Well, my friend, that's a very good question. You see, trade policies are like a giant game of Jenga. One wrong move, and the whole thing can come crashing down. Biden's administration has been carefully trying to remove the problematic pieces without causing a collapse. You see, even though Biden is now at the helm, untangling the web of tariffs and trade barriers that Trump created is about as easy as teaching a goldfish to play the banjo. It's a painstaking process that requires time, diplomacy, and a lot of patience. So these tariffs have been hanging around like a bad smell, creating uncertainty and driving up prices for everyone. Businesses are struggling to plan for the future, and consumers are feeling the pinch in their wallets. Countries around the world weren't exactly thrilled about this, especially China, which is a major trading partner with the US. The tariffs have strained relationships and made international cooperation more challenging. They tried to reason with Trump, they tried to negotiate, but nothing seemed to work. Diplomatic efforts were met with resistance, and the situation only grew more tense. The man was about as flexible as a titanium spork. Eventually, enough was enough. The international community decided that they couldn't wait for a change in US policy and had to take matters into their own hands. China, along with a mystery ally from the G7, decided to hit back, and boy did they hit back hard. They implemented their own set of tariffs and trade barriers, escalating the situation into a full-blown trade war. The repercussions of this conflict are still being felt today, as both sides navigate the complex landscape of international trade. Here's where things get really interesting. In a move that sent shockwaves through the global economy, China and this unnamed G7 ally decided to sell off a record $261.7 billion in US debt. That's billion with a B. It's the kind of money that makes your eyes water and your head spin. Now, I'm no economics professor, but even I know that selling off that much debt is a big freaking deal. It's basically like saying, we don't trust the US economy as much as we used to, so we're cashing in our chips and going home. This move immediately sent the value of the US dollar plummeting like a lead balloon full of hair plugs. And when the dollar sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. The USD, which is usually the world's reserve currency, went into freefall. It's like watching your favorite sports team go from winning championships to being relegated in the space of a single season. Just brutal. This sudden drop in the dollar's value had all sorts of knock-on effects. Imports became more expensive, which meant that businesses had to raise prices, which meant that consumers had less money to spend. It was a vicious cycle, and it left a lot of people feeling pretty anxious about the future. Section 5. Bitcoin to the moon. Well, almost. But amidst all the economic doom and gloom, there was one group of people who were doing a little jig of joy. Bitcoin enthusiasts. You see, Bitcoin, that digital currency that everyone's always going on about, is often seen as a safe haven asset. That means that when people are worried about the economy, they tend to flock to Bitcoin, which in turn drives up its price. And that's exactly what happened. With the dollar in the doldrums, Bitcoin soared to new heights, breaking through the $100,000 mark for the first time ever. It was like the crypto equivalent of winning the lottery, at least for those who had bought in early enough. Section 6. Political tremors in the G7. As if the economic fallout wasn't bad enough, this whole debt sell-off also triggered a wave of political instability, particularly within the G7. Remember that unnamed G7 ally who teamed up with China? Well, it turns out that their decision to stick it to the US didn't go down too well with everyone back home. In Canada, the finance minister resigned in protest, claiming that the government was spending like a drunken sailor on shore leave. In Germany, the chancellor lost a vote of no confidence, which triggered new elections. And in France, Moody's downgraded the country's credit rating, which is kind of like getting a bad Yelp review for an entire country. Section 7. A world on the brink. All of this goes to show just how interconnected the global economy really is. When one country, even a superpower like the US, starts throwing its weight around, it can have ripple effects that are felt all over the world. And right now, those ripple effects are looking pretty damn scary. We've got a trade war that's threatening to boil over, a global currency in crisis, and political instability in some of the world's most powerful nations. It's enough to make you want to stock up on canned goods and head for the hills. Section 8. Can America recover? So, what's next? Can the US recover from this self-inflicted wound? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The Biden administration is trying to stabilize the economy and repair relationships with its allies, but it's an uphill battle. They're basically trying to fix a burning car while it's still rolling downhill. Some experts believe that the US needs to take drastic measures, like implementing stricter financial regulations, or even launching a new global currency. Others think that the best course of action is to ride out the storm and hope for the best. Either way, it's clear that the US is facing its biggest economic challenge in decades. Section 9. The future of global trade. This whole debacle has also raised serious questions about the future of global trade. The interconnectedness of our world economy means that disruptions in one part of the globe can have ripple effects everywhere. From supply chain issues to trade tariffs, the landscape is becoming increasingly complex and unpredictable. For decades, the US has been the undisputed leader of the global economy, setting the rules and calling the shots. Its financial markets, technological innovations, and military power have given it a significant edge. However, recent political and economic decisions have cast a shadow over its reliability as a global partner. But its recent actions have left many countries wondering if they can really trust the US anymore. Allies and trade partners are increasingly looking for alternatives, diversifying their economic relationships to reduce dependency on any single nation. China, in particular, is looking to assert itself as a major player on the world stage. With its Belt and Road Initiative, China is investing heavily in infrastructure projects across Asia, Africa, and Europe, aiming to create a vast network of trade routes that could rival those dominated by the US. With its massive economy and growing influence, China is well positioned to challenge US dominance. Its advancements in technology, manufacturing, and renewable energy are setting new standards that other countries are beginning to follow. Whether this leads to a more multipolar world order or a new kind of Cold War remains to be seen. The dynamics of international relations are shifting, and the balance of power is in flux. Countries are forming new alliances and partnerships, navigating a landscape that is more competitive and less predictable. One thing's for sure, the world is changing and the US can't afford to rest on its laurels any longer. It must innovate and adapt to maintain its leadership role. This means investing in new technologies, strengthening international alliances, and addressing domestic issues that could undermine its global standing. It needs to adapt to this new reality and find a way to work constructively with other nations. Collaboration and diplomacy will be key in navigating this new era of global trade. The US must recognize that it is no longer the sole architect of the global economy and that cooperation with emerging powers is essential. Otherwise, it risks being left behind in a rapidly evolving world. The pace of change is accelerating, and those who fail to keep up will find themselves at a significant disadvantage. The future of global trade will be shaped by those who are willing to embrace change and work together for mutual benefit. Right, that's it for now. The complexities of global trade are vast, and this is just the beginning of a much larger conversation. I need a stiff drink, and possibly a therapist. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear: we are in for a wild ride.